From a dad in Vermont who would do anything to help his son escape the police, and a high-speed chase in Georgia that ended with a perfect pit maneuver, to incredible footage of a small plane making an emergency landing, and much more. Here are some of the craziest moments caught on police dashcam. Hardwick is a small town in upstate Vermont. It's home to just under 2,000 people and one crazy dad who tried to help his son escape the cops. It was late June of 2022. Vermont State Police were looking for 24-year-old Brandon Tallman, who was wanted on burglary charges. They found him at his parents' house and tried slapping on the cuffs. First, his mom tried to interfere with the arrest. She refused to let go of her son and got into a scuffle with the troopers. That's when Brandon's dad hopped in an excavator and began the strangest standoff you'll ever see. Thankfully, the police defused the situation and arrested all three people. Amy and Wayne Tallman, Brandon's parents, were charged with impeding an officer and reckless endangerment. During the video, you can see Wayne threatening the officers with the excavator bucket multiple times. He's lucky that he didn't hit anyone or damage the cruiser. He later pled guilty to 3 felony charges in exchange for 90 days in jail. That was probably the right call. Even the best lawyer in New England couldn't get you off after seeing this clip. Established in 1733, Savannah is the oldest city in the U.S. state of Georgia. It played a pivotal role in the American Revolution and the Civil War. That means that there are plenty of ghost stories haunting the old colonial streets. But there is one tale that's had the local police baffled since the early 2000s. The legend of the Savannah ghost car. What began as a routine traffic stop spiraled into a high-speed chase down the highway. But it's how that chase ended that police couldn't figure out. Our driver fakes like he's about to pull over and then bangs a quick U-turn across several lanes. The officer catches a quick glimpse, but it's the last time he'll ever see this driver. We lose track of him for a moment. We're not sure if the driver turned off his lights or simply sped ahead. The officer eventually catches up, and the chase is on. The driver tries every trick in the book to shake the officer. He swerves like a maniac and fakes like he's turning down other roads. Next, they race down a long straightaway. Thankfully, traffic wasn't too heavy that night. Then, the unexplainable happens. The driver takes a sharp left and seems to magically pass through a fence. The officer can only watch as the taillights drive away. But how did he do it? The first episode of Apple TV's Fact or Faked tried to solve the mystery. When a stunt driver went through the same fence, it lifted up like a curtain and snapped back into place. It only takes a split second, which is why everyone thought they were watching a ghost drive away. But this was no ghost. It was just one lucky driver. While most officers respond to calls about people in need, others watch trouble happen right before their eyes. Take this officer from Brook Parks, Ohio, a small suburb just outside of Cleveland. It was March 15th of 2016. A Brook Parks officer was stationed near the train tracks on Route 237. He watched as traffic passed, keeping his eye out for speeders and texters. Then, he saw something he couldn't believe. Keep your eye on the blue and white AT&T van approaching from the right side of the screen. You can't see from this angle, but there are train tracks behind the 18-wheeler. What you can see is the crossing arm coming down. The driver must not have seen it and thought they could get around the semi-truck. Instead, he got himself stuck on the tracks. Our officer springs into action once he realizes the van is stuck. They have less than a minute before the train comes barreling through. He hustles over and waves the driver away from the van. Then, smack! The train comes through and crushes the van. The driver was issued a citation for ignoring the flashing railroad lights. We imagine he's in a new line of work. Raleigh, North Carolina is home to about 467,000 people, making it the second most populated city behind Charlotte. On August 14th of 2013, 3 of them had different perspectives of the same harrowing incident. State Trooper A.G. Knight pulled over a driver on US 64 in Wake County. He was a seasoned officer who had conducted plenty of traffic stops in the past, but none of them ended like this. At least, not until now.
Raleigh, just had a 1050 out here on 64, just west of 96.
Now we assume 1050 is the police code for "I almost got hit by a tractor trailer." The driver gets out of her car to see if Trooper Knight is okay. He tells her to stay seated as he talks over the radio. Now if you look closely, you can see 2 semi-trucks approaching in the stopped car's reflection. It looks like the truck that stopped was tailgating the other. We're not sure why the driver slammed on their brakes, but they're lucky nobody got hurt. Move-over laws were enacted in 2002. They direct all drivers to change lanes or slow down when passing a stopped emergency vehicle with flashing lights. This includes public service vehicles like tow trucks, utility vans, and telephone trucks. If you see flashing lights on the side of the road, slow down or get over. Now, not all dashcam videos catch criminals in the act. Sometimes they capture the strangest things you can imagine, like this small plane that needed to make an emergency landing. It happened in Parkland, Washington, a small town south of Tacoma. Trooper Clint Thompson was out on patrol when he saw the plane flying too close to the ground. You can tell something's wrong when the plane dips below the streetlights. Trooper Thompson spins around and follows the plane as it comes to a shaky landing on the road. Thankfully, traffic had stopped in both directions to make room. Funny enough, the plane stops perfectly at a red light. Our favorite part is when Trooper Thompson walks up to the cockpit. How badly do you think he wanted to say license and registration? The pilot pops out and both men tug the plane off to the side. Our pilot said he was flying to work when his engine failed and he needed to make an emergency landing. In his 21 years on the force, Trooper Thompson said this was a first. Hopefully, it was also a last. Ringwood is a small town on the Jersey side of the New York-New Jersey border. It's home to about 12,000 people and one lucky police officer. It was late May of 2016. Officer Doug Faber, an 8-year vet of the Ringwood Police Force, responded to a tree blocking the road. What happened next nearly ended in catastrophe. According to the Ringwood police chief, Officer Faber only hurt his wrist and needed a few stitches after a branch hit him in the head. He's lucky he dove out of the way in time. Falling trees are no joke. Thankfully, trees don't fall quietly. Officer Faber heard the snapping branches and ran for safety. We think they underestimated how big the fallen branch was. Had someone sent a picture, they probably would have sent a professional crew, not one cop in his bare hands. Sometimes, teenagers make really bad decisions. Just ask 19-year-old Ryan Brewer and Justin Smith. These teens from Forsyth County, Georgia, learned the hard way why you shouldn't run from the police. It was mid-May of 2023. A Forsyth County deputy was working the late shift when he clocked their white BMW going 87 in a 45-mile-per-hour zone. Instead of pulling over, Ryan floored it. What ensued was a 140-mile-per-hour chase through Forsyth County. It ended in a perfect pit maneuver.
Speed's 140. Speed's 140.
When our deputy pulls Ryan from the car, you can hear him asking to call his mom. Unfortunately, Mom wasn't gonna get him out of this one. When the deputy asked how old he was, Ryan responded, 19. The officer then called him a silly goose, which probably did wonders for his street cred. To make matters worse, police found alcohol in the car. Both teens were arrested for reckless driving and alcohol possession. A PIT, or a precision immobilization technique, is when a pursuing officer taps the back left or right side of a speeding vehicle. This ideally causes the driver to spin out of control and stop. According to reports, the deputy could only pit the car after it slowed down to navigate curves in the road. Otherwise, a pit maneuver at 140 miles per hour could be extremely dangerous for everyone involved. On June 10th of 2023, police officers in Mesa, Arizona got to test a new pursuit gadget. It's simply called the Grappler, and it allows pursuing officers to safely end high-speed chases. A late-night call came in about street racers weaving through traffic. One of them allegedly struck a pedestrian and fled the scene. The street racing task force quickly found the cars and gave chase. Thanks to the Grappler, it didn't last very long.
Grapple. Just south of the scene at South Gilbert.
Hands out the window. Do not move.
The 17-year-old driver and passenger were detained and cited for street racing. Unless they're repeat offenders, both teens were looking at fines, community service, and a 20-day vehicle impound. The Grappler worked flawlessly to stop this chase. It's a strong net system that folds down from the cruiser's front bumper. The pursuing officer then gets behind the suspect's vehicle and jams the net under one of their back tires. The netting detaches and wraps around the tire, effectively connecting both cars. The officer slams on the brakes, and the suspect's vehicle can't go anywhere. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another one just like it, then be sure to click the link on screen now. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.